We're talking about Block. Yeah, the company behind Square and Cash App. Their latest move has everyone asking the same question. Are we watching a new blueprint for work get drawn up right in front of us?
Okay, let's get right into it. With the headline number, the one that sent some serious shockwaves through the tech world.
You're seeing that right. Block, the fintech giant, announced it was cutting its staff by a whopping 40%. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. For a company of this size, that number is absolutely staggering.
So what does 40% actually look like in human terms? Well, it means more than 4,000 people lost their jobs. The company's headcount got slashed from over 10,000 down to just under 6,000. It's one of the biggest, most significant tech layoffs we've seen in a while. So you have to ask, why? Why make a cut that deep? Well, Block was actually pretty open about its reasoning, and it all boils down to one game-changing technology.
Jack Dorsey, the co-founder, he laid it out pretty plainly. He said that with new intelligence tools, and you can bet he's talking about AI, a smaller team can get more done and do it better. And listen to that last part. He says these tools are getting more powerful every single week. That's a huge statement.
And this wasn't just Jack's view. It came right from the top. The company's CFO, Amrita Ahuja, pretty much spelled it out even more directly. She connected the dots right here, talking about using AI to automate work so smaller teams can just move faster. Now here's what's really important to understand. This was not a move of desperation. The company isn't failing. In fact, Dorsey made it a point to say that their gross profit is still growing. So this was a strategic choice, a proactive move, not a reaction to bad numbers. But to really get the full context here, we gotta rewind the clock a few years. Because you see, this whole AI story, it has a really important backstory. Just look at this chart. It tells such a dramatic story. At the end of 2019, Block had just under 4,000 people. Then, bam, the pandemic hits, and by 2023, they'd ballooned to over 10,000 employees. When you see it like that, these layoffs feel less like a cut and more like a hard reset back to where they were before things went wild.
And you got to remember, Block wasn't the only one, not by a long shot. This was happening all over tech. I mean, Meta basically doubled its size during that same period. Everyone was hiring like crazy to keep up with the insane demand for online everything during the pandemic. And now? Well, now we're seeing the big correction.
So, this brings us to that inevitable conflict you see in any layoff announcement. The impact on people versus the reaction from the market.
For the thousands of people who were let go, the company did put together a pretty detailed severance package. You can see it here. Over 20 weeks of pay, they get their equity until May, 6 months of healthcare, they even get to keep their laptops and get an extra $5,000. It was a clear effort to soften what is obviously a really tough blow.
But while it was a brutal day for employees, how did Wall Street see it? Well, the market's reaction was immediate and extremely positive. Block's stock shot up by as much as 24%. It sent a loud and clear signal that investors absolutely loved this new, leaner, AI-powered strategy. And that leads us to the biggest takeaway here. Because this isn't just about Block anymore. It's about a powerful new philosophy that's really starting to take hold all across the tech industry.
Yeah, Jack Dorsey pretty much sees himself as being ahead of the curve. He thinks most companies are late to this idea, and he predicts that within the next year, a whole lot of them are going to do the exact same thing. He's basically saying, we're just doing now what everyone else will be forced to do later.
This is all part of what people are calling the lean philosophy. And the idea is pretty simple. Operate with smaller, more agile teams. And what's the secret sauce that makes it all work? You supercharge those small teams with AI to just blow the doors off their old levels of output and speed.
And this isn't just some theory. We're seeing it play out. Just look at Amazon. When they announced their own layoffs, they used almost the exact same language, saying they needed fewer layers so they could operate as quickly as possible. Sound familiar? It's the same playbook.
Which brings us to the big final question, the one right on the screen. Was Block's move just a one-time correction after a crazy pandemic? Or is this the blueprint for the new normal, a future where companies run with smaller teams, supercharged by AI, which might just mean fewer jobs for the rest of us? It's a question that's going to define the next decade of work for sure.